Hello, I'm Gay Gaddis. Delighted to be here with you today. I'm the founder of a advertising agency called T3 in Austin that actually had offices in New York, San Francisco, Atlanta, and did business with Fortune 100, 200 companies around the world. It was the largest woman-owned advertising agency when I sold it last fall. And so today I'm focused on leadership training and very excited to be here. Also an artist, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from today. I'm the chair of the Texas Business Leadership Council, and in that work, we have been very, very supportive of all things that help our students in Texas become better educated. And of course, that feeds the pipeline in business with qualified, great trained workers. And so as business people in Texas, we are very, very focused on how to ensure that our students are getting the best education that they possibly can. And again, add to the many, many jobs that will be created in Texas as it grows, and how we will be looking for some of these students that you are teaching today as they grow up and move into more professional roles. I'm also the mother of three. So I had three children that are now adults and have gone through the school system and through college. I'm also the grandmother of two, and certainly watching my young granddaughters and what will happen with their education. So I'm definitely out there counting on teachers to support all of these young people coming along. And I'm actually also the daughter of a lifelong educator. My mother, Dottie Warren, was a beloved school teacher. She taught first grade for many, many years. And when I was a little girl, as a child, my mother owned her own kindergarten. And so she had a private kindergarten, and I was allowed to go to kindergarten a little early and be a part of that program, but I watched her as she educated children and how much passion and care she had for the whole educational program. The other thing is recently I wrote a book called Cowgirl Power, How to Kick Ass in Business and Life. And it's my story as an entrepreneur. It's also my story of starting an advertising agency and the advice that I give to people along the way to try to navigate this thing called life, as well as business success and whatever endeavors that people are pursuing. In addition to that, I do feature some historic cowgirls in my book who were total role models for us, really. They were outstanding women who performed in rodeos and Wild West shows all over the world. They were the first international female superstars, and so they get a little bit of a spotlight in my book as well. And as I mentioned, I have an emerging career as a fine artist. When I went to school at the University of Texas in Austin, I majored in fine art. And soon after graduating, and I was trained as a fine artist, I went to work in the advertising business because I could draw. And being able to draw gave me a seat at the table as an art director in the ad biz. And so I kind of left my fine arts degree behind and went into business. But a few years ago, I was able to rekindle that interest and have had quite a bit of success with my art and have sold paintings, and they are all over the world now. Some of my paintings that I've created at our Texas Hill Country Ranch. I paint landscapes and skyscapes. But let's talk about you today. You have a very noble calling. As we all know, we are hoping that our parents had the very best choices for their children to get the best education possible. And, you know, there's the high dollar private schools that some of our parents and families can afford, and they certainly are welcome to put their children in those programs. And then, of course, there's the public schools. I'm a product of the public schools. And then also, of course, they're charter schools. And these are an amazing accomplishment that you all do every day to educate the kids. And you're actually doing the right thing because we're giving to so many parents who wouldn't have the choice to put their children in a very high performing program to be a part of the teaching that you offer. And it's giving them a chance to get that leg up in life, just given that opportunity to get a better education that can lead to maybe a college education or to a great technical career, because you've given them the courage, the knowledge, and the strength, and that motivation to do better in life. And so I applaud you. It's a very noble calling. And, a lot of parents would be missing that chance to give their children that top level education if it wasn't for the work that you do every day. And, I look at the outcomes. And again, as part of the Texas Business Leadership Council, we're looking at outcomes and how students are really performing in our Texas schools. And so I've been told that there are around 300,000 students in Texas that are a part of your programs, and that also that you do serve some of the underserved families and children in our communities. So let's go back to my mom, the lifetime educator. She really, was teaching at a time in a small town where I grew up in Liberty, Texas. And we didn't really have many choices there. A very few families drove their children to private schools in Houston, but the vast majority of us were in the public school system. And because of that, there was no real caste system there. It was the haves and the have-nots. And it was pretty dramatic in my little town of less than 10,000 people. So I went to school with children who had much more than me or about the same as me, and some that really were at poverty level. But my mother was teaching in those schools, and she was so kind and so giving to these children who really did not have much hope in life. And so she focused a lot on them and taught thousands of children to read and opened doors for them in basic math. So she was really one of those people that gave a lot, for not much money. Teachers don't make a lot of money, but she did it because she believed in what she was doing. And so much like you, she was giving to students because it was her life mission, really, to do that. And she continued to teach even up in years. She taught at a little kindergarten later in life after she got out of the public school. Um, the other thing that that I know that you all are so very, very involved in, and trying to mitigate and cut back on the red tape that really entangles our systems and keeps students from being able to learn at the level that they should. So again, I applaud you at that. Your mission is important, and the way you deliver education is so important. And again, I think you have a lot of hills to climb, but you certainly are doing a great job. Now, let me give you a little bit about when I was in the advertising industry. And I was there for many years and owned my own company, as I said, for almost 31 of those years. So, how did we win? How did a little agency that started in Austin, Texas in 1989 during a recession ever win any big business? And the way we did it was that we knew how to be nimble. We knew how to turn on a dime. We also got results. So it was almost in many cases when we would go in and pitch like a UPS or Allstate or 7-Eleven or some of the big Hallmark accounts, and accounts that we were working on that were usually serviced by the much larger agencies. So how did we, T3, get in and win that business? It was actually just because we were innovative. We proved what we could do, and we got results, and we acted quickly. And so clients would gravitate to us because you wouldn't believe it. Some clients would come to me and say, wow, you just get things done. You are results oriented, and we're excited to be working with you. And I would say, wow, what's everyone else doing? Of course, we're getting things done. But again, that's a lot of what the charter schools are doing. You're agile, you're fast, you're flexible, and you're able to offer things that is not tangled up in some of the rhetoric and red tape that some of the schools are just strangled with. So again, applaud you, kudos for doing that work. Now, how do you win? What is your success story? What is your secret to winning? And this is what I will say to you. It's all about taking good care of the kids. You know, if you do your job and you are really performing and the kids are performing at levels that many thought they could never get to, then you are really doing the right thing. And that's where your job comes in. If you can get more students into higher education and again into these technical training programs that allow them to get great jobs and be productive citizens in our country, then you have done a fabulous, fabulous piece of work. And again, we applaud you for that and want to cheer you on, you know, to keep doing this good work. And as you take care of the kids, your weapon and your sword is the results. Let me tell you another little story about me in business. Many years ago, we were only in Austin, Texas, and a little company at the time called Dell Computer Corporation came knocking at our door, and we got to do some very early projects with Dell. Well, this was a great thing for our small agency, and as a year and a half progressed into the relationship, all of a sudden this internet thing came along, and we were starting to do some of the very, very first programs and marketing strategies and marketing emails and that sort of thing on the internet. And Michael Dell was a big believer that the internet was a way for Dell to win because they could sell direct to consumer, direct to business. But there was also something magical about the internet. And there was a mantra at Dell that I have lived by ever since, you know, I have been working with them, and that was, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so we did that, and you could measure your success. You could see the results along the way, and that kept, you know, kept us all motivated. It kept us on strategy. It kept us on point. And when we weren't getting the results we needed to, we'd make a mid-course correction and step around and get it done. And so those great ideas that come from the internet teaching us, the results that we got, all of that stuff made us innovate. And innovation was the key also to us winning business and to us keeping business, because we were able to innovate, measure results, and move on and actually, you know, come out of a program with dollars and cents that we could show that we had actually helped our clients earn to help them build relationships with their customers. So you're really building relationships with your customers. Your customers are the parents and the students and all of us in the state who are watching to say, what charter schools can do for us? What can they do for our society to make us a better educated and a much, much better Texas? And that's what we want to be, a globally competitive Texas. So that's how you win. You're going to prove it with the numbers, and your numbers are good. So you'll translate those numbers, though, into understandable stories. We all live by stories. I've told you a couple stories here today. And if you can take your results, if you can spotlight some of these kids and what they're able to achieve and get it into bite-sized pieces, into stories that people can digest and understand and spread those stories and keep telling those stories, that's how you win. And that's how you stay in favor and how you will continue to do the good work that you're doing. And of course, as we have to inform our policymakers about all these things you're doing, those bite-sized pieces, those stories are what we need to carry to them. And I know you have people on your teams who do that, but you're the ones who make the success stories. You're the ones who give them the stories to be able to tell our policymakers and our legislators so that they continue to support this excellent work that you're doing. So how are you going to get these kids in a great place? Well, I always said, as in business, when I would walk in the building, when I would walk in my office, and today with my new company, Gay Gaddis LLC, if I just walk among the few people who work with me to make all these things happen, I can feel the buzz. I got the vibe. I knew if people were up or down and what I needed to do to help motivate them to move on to the next step. And sometimes things weren't good. I mean, let's be honest. We would lose a piece of business. There was a recession. You would find out that, oh my gosh, you're losing two of your great employees. What are you going to do to backfill them? Or I have to lay off some people. And times can be really tough. But continuing to motivate people because of the bigger prize, because of the mission, that's what you always have to keep focused on. And there will be bad times. I think this pandemic has certainly hit a lot of people hard. And we've seen our families get hit very hard. I'm sure a lot of the parents of your students have lost their jobs and their incomes and their ability to even put food on the table. So keeping people motivated during these times is a task. But that's when we have to kind of get up and take that last bit of grit that we have inside us and say, we're going to make this better. We're going to continue on because, once again, when you know you're doing the right thing, it makes it a little bit easier to get up every day and fight the good fight. And you're doing that because, as I said, you have right on your side. And when you're doing the right thing, you can feel assured that your light is shining well, well beyond what you can see today. And again, as the daughter of a lifelong educator, one of the most amazing things that I would see with my mother, and even into her 80s, she would get phone calls from adults, sometimes way, up in years themselves, who would say, Mrs. Warren, we just wanted to call you. We found you and we were able to look you up, and we just wanted to call you and thank you because you were our favorite teacher, or you were the person who taught me to read. You were the person who changed my life. You were the person who eventually I called one day and said, I don't think I can get into law school. And you were there for me. And so, just think of this lifetime effect that you have on so many individuals. They will carry your teaching, they will carry your motivation, they will carry the caring that you have given for them all through their lives. And you never know when that spark will hit again, that they will remember you, or they'll remember a moment that they had in school that changed their lives forever. So thank you for changing lives. Continue your good work, and I'm cheering you on. Thanks again, and have a great year.